welcome to another session of Living History with Ted Goldsboro. Today our guest is Dr. Patricia Krisch, who has written a book about an organization called the ABC House. So we're going to be talking about Patty about her book and showing images related to the ABC House, which is in Ardmore. Welcome, Patty.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming today.
And thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. We wish you success with your book.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Could you tell me, we thought we'd start with your telling about yourself, and then we'll get into the ABC House.
Okay, well, I'm trained as a sociologist. I have my doctorate in sociology from University of Chicago. My field was demography, but early on, my first job in graduate school was working with a research program on teenage gangs, and it was quite a revelation to me. I grew up in Sacramento, California. You know, I didn't really know anything about gangs. I didn't know much about people of color, you know, Mexicans, but not. And so it was really profound because I realized how bad, coming from disadvantaged backgrounds, making some poor life choices as a teenager could really affect a kid's life chances. When I was asked to join the board of A Better Chance, I realized this was an opportunity to work with kids from very similar backgrounds and have much better life outcomes. The ABC program is a program for kids of color. It's a college prep program, takes academically talented programs. Our house is a boys' house. They also have programs for girls. And it's for the 4 years of high school. They go to Lower Merion High School and then on to college. And it's a residential program. We have a house in Ardmore, which we'll talk about a little later.
Okay, thank you. In our local community, what kinds of organizations have you been involved with?
Well, I was president of the League of Women Voters in the 1980s, and I was active in the school. I was home and school president at Lower Merion High School when my daughter graduated from Lower Merion, and I was also on several district-wide committees. Pointed, you know, being a demographer, obviously I had some skills that the school district was happy to have me be there. So I had a lot of involvement with the schools, and also to some extent with politics through the league.
Could you tell about why you decided to write a book and why the title?
I'm not sure I can really reconstruct how I got the title. I like it, but we went through several iterations, and this one just seemed to fit the topic.
What is the title?
The title is A House Alive with Words. Should I hold it up?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah,
A House Alive with Words.
And the subtitle is Stories from the ABC Program, A Path to College for Inner City Youth. It started, I was an active member of the board at the time, helping supervise the academic program. And there was a period when we had two staff members, a tutor and a resident director, both who were poets. And they started having the kids read poetry on weekends, writing poetry, and that morphed into having a program for the board in April, which now we're still doing, but where the kids write poetry and they read them to the board. And it's a very nice occasion. There was one poem, which I'm going to read for, that really, we realized listening that this was perhaps a gateway into understanding the experiences the kids had. I had a collaborator in the book. We were going to be co-authors, but he was too busy to do that. It's Jason Fritz. He had just graduated from Haverford College when he started with us. He now teaches English at Harriton, had got a master's at Penn, and he's now working a doctorate in education at Penn. And he's been a couple of the chapters in the book are ones he wrote, and he was very essential to it because a lot of the stories are ones he told me about or pointed to, and we interviewed the kids there was 8 boys in the book, and we interviewed some of them together, and then I did a lot more on my own.
One of the difficulties that the challenges that the boys have at ABC House is that they're coming from an inner city like New York or Chicago or Baltimore or and since some of them are starting at 9th grade, they're 14 years old. What are the problems for them coming to a new environment?
Well, there's a lot of problems. One of them is homesickness. They're coming from situations where usually they've never had a white person in their class, in their school, and they're coming from quite segregated schools, de facto segregation, and so they have to adjust to that. They're coming to quite a affluent community, and they're coming from poor backgrounds, so that's another. And they're living away from home. They're living in a group home with 7 or 8 other teenagers and 4 or 5 staff members, and so there's the freshman year is often a difficult one. Having said that, I have to tell you that one of our freshmen this year just got elected freshman class president. He's been here a month, so we're expecting great things from him.
That's great. I saw that on Facebook. I was really pleased to see that. Would you be willing to, I presume that you've heard the boys' poetry, and would you be willing to read a poem that might have been in your book?
Yeah. I have the book has a lot of their poetry and some of their essays that they've shared with us. Poetry that seemed to fit with the topic we were trying to discuss. This is from a boy named Edwin, and he was a freshman. He started off by saying, and this is a very charming, outgoing young man, saying that today was his younger brother's birthday and he wasn't there. So this poem's called "This One's for You." Now, he writes very good standard English. This was written in kind of the vernacular of his Dominican neighborhood in New York City. How does one begin to talk a person as special as you, a person who brings you joy and happiness along with meetings of life which are so true, a person that makes you feel like every day upcoming you start your life anew? Well, little bro, let me just start saying this one's for you. The paper fluttered in his trembling hands. Edwin, black-eyed with a rich caramel complexion, continued. It saddens me to realize that for your B-Day, this year things are going to be a little different. That for the first time I'm not going to be around for you when you're most happy with eyes full of joy and innocence, with so much love in your heart for those who sometimes don't even care to listen. This one's for you. About this time, Edwin choked up. He swiped an arm across his eyes but kept reading. Hurts every time when I ask about you and how you doing in town, and I hear that you sad, dragging yourself around and moping around. Hurts every time Mama tells me you two burst into tears together, 'cause you still feel as if you lost me forever. I sat riveted. As board members, we concentrate on the opportunities we provide to disadvantaged youth, the chance to attend an excellent suburban high school and help in getting into college. But if life at home was happy, how hard it must be to leave it for here. This is the price our boys pay to get a decent education. I know it's hard when we wake up every morning, remember that we're 2 hours away from each other, but just promise me that you'll take care of yourself. Don't do nothing stupid, and always love me like your brother. Executive Chair Rob Howard's 9-year-old daughter was sitting next to me, and now she leaned into me and whispered, "Look at my daddy, he's crying." Edwin bowed his head, seemingly unable to read any further. I saw fellow board members squirming. A silent question, how do we rescue him from this, ricocheted off the living room walls. "I'm all right," Edwin said as he straightened his head and soldiered on. "Just know that I'll always love you and that this one's for you. Just want to wish you the best of luck on your special day, and also want you to promise that you'll keep on being you no matter what other people got to say. Because you know that if they say something stupid, together we mess them up any day. I bless the day you was born and came to me, because through life there were so many things you made me see. But now it's time for me to go. Remember to always be safe if you messing with them hoes. Love you now and always, and Antony, this one's for you. Silence, then Hyatt glided over to Edwin and gently rubbed his back. Soon Edwin's normal buoyancy returned. It was assembled adults who stayed quiet, trying to process such raw emotion.
I really like that poem. It is, I almost tear up listening to it, to think of the love between brothers like that. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. So that's an example of what's in your book. You have several different instances where students are writing their feelings.
Yeah.
Good.
And we felt that was a kind of a gateway to understanding the experiences they were having.
And in fact, you've continued the poetry reading after.
Yes, yeah. They're still, every year, usually April, we have a poetry night.
Okay. Oh, well, I'm flipping through pages here. I see that we have about a minute left. Let's see. So one of the photos we had was of Hyatt and Jay. Can you describe who they are? And I know if we only have left in a minute, there's not going to be much
Well,
time.
Hyatt was the resident director at the time. She had a degree in social work from Vermar, and she'd been a tutor for a couple of years, and then she was resident director for 3 years. Jay had just graduated from Haverford, and he after the third year he was a resident director.
Okay.
And this picture is of Edwin, who that poem. This is not the year he did this. This was when he was more comfortable, and I think he's talking the poem.
Okay. I think we better take a break now, but we'll be right back after this break.